not. My aim was to write stories that hew closely to the perspective of the people without power, instead of assuming the perspective of those with it. I had done quite a few sensitive interviews by then and had been witness to many people affected by crimes in the stage when their grief was still shock. Even so, when I first met the Davis family, the relatives of 3 of the children in the 2018 crash, I was bowled over. This felt different. The family's pain ran deep. It was a pain that had existed in their lives since they first lost the children a decade before, and now it was double-edged. They were re-experiencing the trauma of the children's removal, and they were coming to understand that the fantasies they'd told themselves about the lives the children were living were just that, fantasies. The reality was that the children had not been okay. They had not been cared for. They suffered, and then they died. They were murdered. In the media frenzy over the Hart family tragedy, the deeper story got largely overlooked. While many of the big stories focused on Jennifer and Sarah Hart, stories about the children, who they were, where they came from, what happened to their birth families, were mostly absent. Much of what was written about the kids concentrated only on their harrowing abuse, even as major questions about the child welfare system's role in the deaths went unanswered. In the coverage of the crash, mainstream media continued in its long-standing tradition of reporting on foster care and adoption almost exclusively through the lens of adoptive parents, while largely leaving out the experiences of the adoptees and birth families. We like our adoption stories to be happy endings. Many people took note of the Hart case because it contradicted what they thought they knew about adoption. But since there's a scarcity of in-depth reporting about the child welfare system, people zeroed in on the women's motivations and intentions instead of on the biased decision-making and dehumanizing practices that created the conditions that allowed the Hart's abuse to flourish. In order for the children's stories to become the audiobook you're listening to, the birth families took a huge leap of faith, opening their homes and lives and histories to me, a stranger. I had no personal experience with the foster care system, but I'd had an unstable childhood home life and could relate to some aspects of these families' struggles. Above all, I was struck by the lack of dignity in the way these families were treated, as they repeatedly grieved the loss of their children, first to the state and then to their murderers. There is a unique trust that is built between journalist and source over years of spending time and having deep conversations. It's an honor for me to experience that trust. This is the hardest work I have ever done, and I have routinely confronted the fact that this reporting affected me deeply, even as I knew that the families experiencing this pain firsthand were actually living it each day. Pain that is hard to comprehend, that is overwhelming. As journalists, we are often taught to stay stoic, to depersonalize situations to get out of the way of the story. This ethic has its merits, but it has costs as well. In this audiobook, I'm not a passive observer of injustice. I note in the text places where I have influenced aspects of the story. I refer to the girlfriend and son of one Davis family member, Dante, by their nicknames to be considerate of a child who is still a minor. In one case, which is also noted in the text, I have used a pseudonym for another child for the same reason. I used a pseudonym for Tammy's husband on her request. When Devonte, Jeremiah, and Sierra were adopted by the Harts, the women changed the spelling of Sierra's name, C-I-E-R-A, to Sierra, S-I-E-R-R-A. In the written text for this audiobook, I used the spelling of her name on her original birth certificate throughout. This audiobook is a culmination of 5 years of work. The reporting is based on extensive interviews, traveling to key locations, and studying thousands of pages of foster care case files, criminal case records, and law enforcement investigation documents. I conducted the present-day reporting in person, unless otherwise noted, and I reconstructed past events by conducting in-depth interviews with multiple sources and examining primary documents related to the events. The work is also informed by my 7 years of continuous reporting on the foster care system.